Welcome back to Fringe Spirit, Not Your Love and Light podcast. Thank you for joining me once again. And today we're going to get into empowerment, standing in your power, taking your power back. What does that mean? What does that look like? Why it is so very vital to growing through our human experience. So for me personally, I believe finding our power, taking our power back, standing in our power, being the most empowered version of ourselves is extremely vital to growing spiritually, growing emotionally, growing mentally, evolving and raising our vibration and getting to the next point in our spiritual evolution. I feel like the human species as a whole has been extremely disempowered for such a long time. And right now we're at a time where we're getting rid of that. We're getting rid of the disempowerment and we're taking our power back. However, it can be a lot, especially if you've lived a lot of lifetimes as a human in a very disempowered way. Okay, so what does it look like to be standing in your power, right? So first of all, our power center, one of our, very vital chakras is our solar plexus, right here, right in our gut. And it's the color yellow, and that is our power center. That is our relationship with ourself. That's our confidence, our self-esteem. So to be standing in our power essentially means we have a beautifully healed and beaming and perfectly functioning solar plexus chakra. They go hand in hand. It's very easy to tell if someone is giving their power away by the status of their solar plexus chakra. So to be standing in your power means you are confident, not necessarily cocky, not arrogant, but you are confident. You know who you are. You know what you want. You trust yourself. You believe in yourself. You have strong boundaries and you feel okay with that, right? You're not feeling guilty for having those strong boundaries. You trust yourself and you trust the universe, which means when you have that ability to trust in yourself and the bigger energies that exist, right? Whatever you want to call it, God, universe, source, you have then the ability to surrender. If you have a hard time releasing control and surrendering, you're not fully empowered. You are very intuitive and you listen to and follow your intuition, that gut feeling. A lot of us, we all have those feelings, but a lot of us ignore them because we are programmed to not listen to it or we don't trust it, whatever the case may be. But when you're not following and trusting your intuition, it is a sign of being disempowered. So when you are very empowered, you're trusting your gut, you're trusting your intuition. You can manifest so easily when you know who you are, you know what you want, and you're confident and you trust and all of these things, you can manifest amazingly, right? And who would not want to manifest everything that they want, right? The part of standing in your power is knowing that you are a creator. We're all creators. We all have the ability to create the life that we want, to create the feelings and emotions, how we want to feel, right? We get to create everything that comes into our lives. Who we choose to meet, what the energy we're putting out there is what we're going to get back, right? So when we are in a very disempowered place, we're not going to attract the things that are going to make us feel good, right? Whereas if we are standing in our power, we're going to bring things into our life that really just affirm that sovereignty and that power, right? So trusting our intuition, and which also means sometimes saying, fuck the rules and the bullshit. Fuck what society has told me I can and can't do, or what religion told me I can and can't do, or my parents told me I can and can't do, right? It's knowing that anything and everything is possible and that you have the ability to make that happen, to create it, to become it, to embody whatever version of yourself that you want to embody. Right? That is empowerment. That is standing in your power. And very few people are truly, fully standing in their power. And it's not to any fault of their own. It's a big part of the human experience, right? Okay. So signs that you are maybe giving your power away in some areas of your life, right? Again, back to the solar plexus. So some of the physical things with the solar plexus, again, it's in general, discomfort in that specific area of your body. So maybe mid-back pain, gut issues like heartburn, indigestion, or digestive issues, ulcers in your stomach, eating disorders, issues with your weight, things like that. A lot of your physical nausea, big time nausea for sure. That was a big one for me. That was a very telltale sign for me. And then as far as actions, the way that you're acting, right? People pleasing. If you are a people pleaser, right? Where you will do whatever needs to be done to make someone else happy. It doesn't matter if you want to. It doesn't matter if it's going to affect you negatively. It doesn't matter if you have the capacity to or not, right? Maybe you're drained. You had the longest week ever and your kids are going crazy. It was a long week at work and you're so excited for the weekend. And then a friend calls you up and says, hey, I need this favor. And when you're giving your power away, you're saying, I'm going to choose to do what they need me to do because I'm a people pleaser and I'm going to ignore my own needs. My own needs being, I need to fucking relax. I need some me time, right? So it's people pleasing, which also aligns with poor boundaries, right? Because that's a boundary issue. It's totally a boundary issue. It's choosing to let other people kind of dictate what you're going to do. Good boundaries are, I do not have the capacity to help you right now. I am so sorry, right? And then not feeling guilty about it, right? So again, maybe you are working through your boundaries and you are working, you've recognized your people-pleasing ways and you're working through it. But when you're still feeling that guilt over not doing it, that doesn't mean that you haven't done work, but it does mean that there's still some work to do and we're all there. I still feel guilty when I say no. I struggle to say no. Absolutely. So when you hate confrontation and you avoid it at all costs. So your mother, just pissed you off or has a habit of pissing you off or being disrespectful or whatever the case may be. And because you hate confrontation so much, you never say anything. You just take it. You're a doormat. Right? Again, been there. When you let people walk all over you and you are too scared to say anything because you hate confrontation, you hate that uncomfortable feeling, you don't want to get yelled at, you don't want to disappoint other people, you don't want to make them upset, right? Sometimes it's solely because we don't want to make them upset, which is absolutely insane because what we're doing is just making ourselves upset. Again, we're choosing other people's needs over our own. Another area of disempowerment that can be is, extremely religious or certain spiritual beliefs that are very rigid, that do not leave room for your own interpretation, right? If you are in a religion or a belief system where you have to abide by these rules, and if you don't, then you're bad, or you get kicked out of the group, or whatever, ostracized, whatever. When we have these rules in place that do not allow room for us to seek within and seek bigger, right? We all have the ability to connect with all of the divine information and knowledge that exists out there, to source, to God. If you are in a belief system that tells you you're not good enough to do that, you can't do that, only this person can do that, or only they can do that, right? That is so disempowering. If you want to go talk to God, you can go talk to God. If you want to talk to Jesus, you can talk to Jesus. You don't need to be a certain person. You don't need to be a certain level. You don't need to pay a certain amount of money, any of those things, right? And it transfers into the spiritual world as well. It's not just your structured religions. There's a lot of spiritual communities that are just as disempowering, that are all about these rules. And if you don't follow these rules, you are wrong and you have to follow these steps. There is no right and wrong. There are no specific ways things necessarily have to be done. And any system or belief or anything that is telling you that you cannot access knowledge or you cannot use your metaphysical abilities or anything like that, or you're going to go to hell if you do, disempowering, extremely disempowering. Again, other signs of you're giving your power away, confidence issues, self-esteem issues. When you are not confident and you're very self-conscious about every little thing, whether it's your personal appearance or your weight or, anything physical, right? Your teeth, your hair, your face, your body, your any component, or the way you talk, or your intelligence, or, what do people think about me? Or do they hate me? Are they judging me? When you're so worried about every little thing, you're giving your power away. Codependence, another one. This is a big one. If you if you find that you are so codependent in the way of, you need someone with you at all times, or you don't want to do anything alone, or you don't know how to make decisions for yourself and you rely on other people to make decisions for you, whether it's other people, or maybe you're very in the spiritual world and you're relying on spirit to give you the answers and tell you what to do. When you're waiting for other people, beings, energies to tell you what to do, to control your life for you, when you thrive in an environment where you are controlled, you're so giving your power away in such a, really sad way, because it's a deep one and it's a difficult one to get out of when you're in that place. So codependence and reliance on others. And it's not a bad thing to let others support you, right? That's absolutely not what I'm saying. That is not a bad thing. But when you are paralyzed at the thought of making your own decisions, you're giving your power away. Fearful. If you are a very fearful person, that's another one. If you are in fear of everything, I'm scared if I quit this job and start this job. I'm scared if I'm in, and it's okay to be hesitant and be unsure of the outcome. But if you find that you're living in a place of fear all the time, fear of spirit, fear of your partner, fear of your parents, fear of what someone's going to think of you, fear of how someone's going to react, fear of what's going to happen tomorrow, fear of, am I going to die if I get in the car today? Fear in general is a huge disempowering thing, which is also a big part of what keeps us as humanity as a whole so disempowered, because fear is promoted everywhere, right? You turn the news on, fear. Wherever you go, people are speaking about the terrible things that happen. No one's talking about the good stuff. They're only talking about the bad stuff that puts you in a place of fear, right? So if you're very, very fearful very often, you're giving your power away. If you are a perfectionist, this is another one. It's another sign that you are giving your power away. If it's not perfect, it's not good enough, right? It has that overlap with self-esteem, because it's a self-esteem issue. It's a confidence issue that I have to be perfect or I'm not good enough, right? That creates that kind of perfectionist way of thinking. And then again, when you hold on to a lot of guilt and shame, that, if you feel guilty when you say no, if you feel shame over something that happened like 10 years ago that like no one else even remembers, or shame over some of the thoughts that you have, again, it's very solar plexus. It's very much about your personal power and giving your power away. So as a whole, if you haven't picked it up already, a lot of giving your power away has to do with how you feel about yourself. So what does that mean? That means that there's a lot of healing that needs to be done related to how you feel about yourself. So first, it can be an easier way to go about it is to think about, in what areas am I giving my power away? Because it may not be every area of your life that you're giving your power away. You could be very, very empowered in, say, your career. You're super confident. You know what you bring to the table. You don't take shit. But then maybe in your romantic relationship, you're a doormat, right? So it can be good to address the areas, right? Are you giving your power away in the relationships in your life, right? So maybe like your romantic relationship. Are you the person who's always looking to the other to make the decisions? Do you let them tell you what to do? Do you let them control a lot of the aspects about your life, right? Or, is it a family member? Maybe you have a very narcissistic family member. And, when you have any sort of dynamic relationship with a narcissist who gaslights you, absolutely. You don't trust yourself. They brainwash you almost into being codependent and almost thriving in being controlled by them, right? They make it seem as though like they hold your confidence and they dangle it in front of you and say, okay, if you do this, then you're, oh, good. You did what I told you. And then you feel good. You feel good only when they allow you to feel good, right? It is the most disempowering relationship dynamic anyone can have. So where do you find that you are in these narcissistic relationships? So potentially relationships with others, right? Then you have your relationship with yourself. A lot of us gaslight ourselves, right? We tell ourselves, no, you can't do that. You're not good enough. Or you can't wear that. You're not skinny enough. Or, who are you fooling? You're not pretty enough. He's not going to want to date you, right? We tell ourselves, we gaslight ourselves all the time. Or, if you make this decision, it's going to be wrong because every time you make decisions, you're wrong, right? These sometimes are the thoughts we have in our heads. And sometimes we're gaslighting ourselves. And sometimes we are our own biggest enemy. And so sometimes it's truly solely just the relationship with ourselves. So then maybe another area could be like your career. So, do you get walked all over by your boss? Are you underpaid and you know it, but you're too scared to say anything about it? Because you're scared you'll get fired. And then you're scared you won't find another job because you don't believe in yourself and you don't believe in the abundance that is around you that you can absolutely tap into to get the ideal perfect job, right? If you're living in that lack mindset and you're letting yourself be a doormat at your job, again, that could be another area. So maybe in your personal relationships, you're great, but at work, you don't have the confidence. You don't feel like you can stand up and say, I deserve a raise and this is why. Or when you get a job offer and you say, no, I want 10 grand more, right? If you don't feel like you can say that and back it with reasons why, you're giving your power away in that area. So finding kind of maybe the areas where you're giving your power away can be super helpful. And what it all comes down to, right? So what do we do? How do you actually take your power back and stand in your power? So again, it really does come back to shadow work. It comes back to facing and confronting and healing and then integrating your shadow. So when you can kind of find those areas, then it comes to, and this goes deep into shadow work. So maybe you recognize it with a parent and you realize, okay, I'm definitely giving my power away to my dad or my mom. Then you have to trace it back. So there's always going to be inner child healing work. 100% of the time, there will be inner child work. If your solar plexus is off, 99.999999999% chance you're going to have to confront and work with your inner child. And a lot of times, you might have to reparent your inner child. But it's about finding what happened. Like why are you a people pleaser? right? Did you only get attention as a kid when you were doing what someone else wanted you to do? Did you get attention only when you got straight A's? Is that why you're a perfectionist? Did you get praised for your looks? And so your worth is very tied to your physical appearance. What comments were made when you were a kid that you picked up on that maybe you even overheard that weren't even said directly to you, right? If your mom is standing and looking in the mirror and saying, "Oh, I'm so fat," as a kid, it's going to affect you in that way where you're going to have this attachment to physical, image in your body as part of your worth. If your parents fall all the time and you observed it and, maybe your dad wasn't so good to your mom, you're going to see that is normal, and you're going to and you see that mom stays with dad, even though dad's abusive or dad's narcissistic or dad is just emotionally abusive, right? And it kind of creates that, okay, well, that's a normal relationship and it's okay to be controlled and et cetera, et cetera. The potentials are limitless, and that's where you truly have to do the work. You have to confront your inner child and your shadow and really start to work through that. So in addition to the inner child work, and this takes years. This is not an overnight thing, because first you have to figure out what the thing is. And sometimes it happens through meditation, right? You can do a meditation to find what created this programming, right? The programming being, I'm not worthy because, my worth is based on my physical appearance, or my worth is based on my academic scores, or my worth is based on the status of my career and my job, things like that. Or, maybe you grew up in a very religious family, and there was a lot of conversation and teachings about, oh, no, if you don't follow these rules, you're going to go straight to hell. You better apologize to God for that. And sometimes, especially when the rules that you're following, maybe you don't even agree with. And, that type of thing. And then it creates this programming of this is wrong and this is right. And breaking free of that kind of requires going back to your childhood, where the place that you were when these things were created, and you change it. You clear that energy. You heal your inner child. And then you have to work through the day-to-day programming, right? It's not clear cut and you just heal your inner child and now you're good. You have to recognize when you're feeling triggered, right? When you're feeling the urge to, you have a decision to make, and you're feeling the urge to ask your partner, ask your mom, ask someone else, or maybe you've come up with a decision. Maybe it's, should I move? And you've decided, okay, I'm going to move here, right? I did my healing. I worked with my inner child. This is where I want to move. And this is why. I have all these reasons. It feels right. I'm trusting my gut, et cetera, et cetera. But then you talk to mom about it, and mom's like, are you fucking crazy? And then you're like, okay, I guess I'm not going to move then. Right? So when you find yourself tempted to kind of revert back to those old patterns, that's when you have to flip it. And this is just a brief overview of working with, the shadow and reprogramming and all of that. But in addition to the inner child work, there's also past lives. And that's where it gets really, really convoluted and difficult, because if you've had a lot of lifetimes on Earth as a human being where, if you have a pattern of disempowerment, then there's a lot that has to get cleared, right? This goes back to karma. You can go listen to the whole episode on karma. But it's then having to kind of clear, find all of the reasons why perhaps you are disempowered, right? Maybe you have a lot of lifetimes of, slavery type of idea where you don't have freedom, where, literally everyone else's needs come before yours. And so now I don't know why I feel this way. I always feel like I have to do everything for everybody else, and I'm always going to come last, right? because everyone else's needs are more important than mine. So, or, maybe it's, again, the witch wound where you were tapped into your metaphysical abilities, you were a healer, you were a seer, you were a mystic, whatever the hell you did, and you got persecuted for it. And so then that creates this, again, fear to tap into all of that. And again, it's that disempowerment where, I do not feel safe to be confident and stand in my power and do what I'm here to do, right? So connecting with some of those past lives can really, help to clear out some of that baggage and that energy. So then if you kind of shift to more of the energetic standpoint, right? So if you, are working through, using your metaphysical abilities and healing yourself, right? We should all heal ourselves energetically. Of course, you can go to a healer and they can work on you, but you should never rely on a healer. Again, if you're relying on your healer, you're giving your power away to them. If you're saying, I can't heal myself, only my Reiki master can heal me. That is so disempowering. You're giving your power away to your Reiki master. So realizing that we can do these things for ourselves, and that doesn't mean to not get help, especially at the beginning. But if you are working with a teacher or a healer and they are telling you things like, you can't do this, or you have to go through these certain steps in order to do this, that's super disempowering. A good, kind of teacher or mentor or healer to work with are the ones who are going to teach you how to do everything yourself. Because at the end of the day, that's what we should be doing. Is it great to receive help? Yes. That doesn't mean we have to be independent 100% of the time and do everything for ourselves. But knowing that you can do everything yourself is so empowering, because we can. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. You can heal your chakras. You can heal your aura. You can pull your own cords, right? So another way that we can kind of find where we're giving our power away is by actually looking into our solar plexus. So if you're very clairvoyant, then you're using vision, you're using sight. If you are very clairaudient, then you're listening to what comes up. So a little technique that you could use is, so get yourself in a good relaxed space, right? Take some deep breaths, make the intention of, I'm going to connect with my higher self, I'm going to release my ego, and just get yourself relaxed. It doesn't need to be a super deep meditative state. And then make your focus, or ask your higher self, show me my solar plexus chakra. And look at it. What does it look like? Is it muddy? Is it like a mustardy color? Is it bright yellow? Is it moving? It should be moving at a good speed, not too fast, not too slow. And if you're not sure, so this is what I did. I didn't learn from anyone, right? I learned from my spirit guides, my higher self, other beings that have come to me. I haven't worked with I haven't learned from other humans, I should say, at least incarnated humans. Ask them, what should my solar plexus chakra look like? So if you can see it, if you're visual and you're not sure, is this good? Is this bad? Ask what it should look like. And then how do I get from here to here? If this is what it should look like, and this is where you're at, ask your higher self, show me, guide me on how to get from here to here, on how to heal it and how to get it where I want it to be. Then you want to look at the backside of it. And this is something I don't think everyone thinks about, is looking at the backside of it. So our chakras, we see diagrams and we kind of think of them as this very like 2D structure, but they're not. They're 3D. They're more like a ball. And so while it's accessible in the front, it's accessible in the back as well. And the thing with the back tends to be, that I have found with the people that I've worked with, the status of the back tends to be where you're giving your power away, right? Your front tends to be a lot of how you feel about yourself, and the back tends to be accord with your narcissistic mother that's pulling all the energy right out of the backside of your solar plexus. So if maybe the front is good and you're feeling like, I am pretty confident. I'm confident in my job. I think I'm a good person. I look in the mirror and I'm not hating it. You're not feeling like you're lacking confidence necessarily, but maybe you do have poor boundaries, or, maybe you're still feeding into some of the energies, the people in your life who are trying to take your power away, right? The narcissists in your life, those, type of people. So when you look at the backside of your solar plexus chakra, it can be so telling. And so, okay, maybe you're not visual. Again, make that intention of bring me to the backside of my solar plexus chakra. And maybe you're not visual, and maybe you can hear things. Maybe you hear conversations between you and your mother when you were a kid. Maybe it just feels gross, like you feel like you want to throw up. It just feels heavy, whatever the case may be. Some people are very, you sense it through your body, like that's heavy, that's gross. It's not good back there, right? Ask if there are any cords, whether you can see them or not, and make the intention of, pull those cords. Pull those cords. Don't just snip them. Some people like to snip them. You want to pull it like you're weeding a garden. So the backside of your solar plexus will be super, super telling to where and who you're giving your power away. So if you have a big, massive cord coming out the backside of your solar plexus and it's to your mom or maybe even your partner, then that tells you at least, where an area in your life that you're giving your power away. Because what happens, so the way, the correlation and the way that doing the healing work in the way of like you've got your inner child work and then you're programming and changing those behaviors in your day-to-day life, and then the overlap with the energy, when we clear energy out. So maybe you heal your solar plexus chakra. You pull out all of the yucky energy, the black, the low vibrational, the heavy, the yuck, right? And you leave it and your solar plexus is great. And then a week later, you check it again and you're like, holy crap, it looks the same again. This happens all the time. And this is why also you can't do energy work alone without doing the actual deeper shadow work. Energy work is just a Band-Aid if you're not doing the deeper work, because what the energy that is flowing into your solar plexus, that's filling it up with all this gnarly, gross, heavy energy, if you're not addressing the root cause of that, which could be cord with your mother, it could be trauma from childhood, it could be stuff from past lives, or a combination of all of them. If you're not addressing the reasons and you're not making changes in your day-to-day life, the energy is always going to come back. So you kind of have to do them in tandem. And the time when you heal your solar plexus chakra and then it looks all sparkly and good and it feels real light and it feels real good and you feel like you have this burst of energy, it will last when you've done the deeper work and the energy feeding that is no longer feeding it. You always have to get to the root cause, or it's literally just a Band-Aid. So you can't just constantly go to an energy healer and let them heal you over and over and over. It's a Band-Aid, it's a waste of money, and it's extremely disempowering because you're not doing the work, right? Okay, so in my opinion, from what I have seen and how I've worked with people, the number one thing that keeps us in a disempowered place is staying in victimhood. So when we go and we do our shadow work and we do all of these things, we are likely going to find areas where perhaps we were a victim of something, of maybe not even an intentional thing, but we were a victim. And it can be something super severe to actual physical abuse, to something small like a minor comment that was made that just happened to hit you the right way in the right time, or I guess the wrong way in the wrong time. Some people, and we all know those people that all they do is complain. I just have bad luck. The world is against me. They did this to me and they did that to me. And everything is woe is me. And everything is negative. And everything is this person did this to me and they did this to me. And it's not fair. And poor me, poor victim me, right? We cannot be in that place and stand in our power. Every time that you are in woe is me land, you're giving your power away to the thing that is woe is you, right? It is the most disempowering thing. So the best way to take your power back is to, in the areas where you are the victim, and first off, I want to clarify, part of the healing process is sometimes acknowledging and accepting that you were a victim of XYZ, right? If you don't acknowledge that you were a victim, you can't necessarily heal what happened, right? So part of the healing process is the acknowledgement and acceptance that in this moment, in this experience, you played the role of the victim. But 10 years later, 5 years later, a year, depending on what it is and how long it's taking you to really heal it, you should not still be identifying as a victim. If one of your identities is a victim, and that could be in a lot of areas, it could be related to even race, gender, things like that. If you are identifying yourself as a victim, that is the epitome of giving your power away. Because what that means is, I have no control over this thing. The perpetrator, whether the perpetrator may be society, right? Or, it could be an abuser when you were a kid, or it could be your mother that, did or said something that, she didn't mean to actually do, harm to you. You're giving your power to that perpetrator because you're not owning who you are. We have to take accountability. So you might be thinking, well, I was a victim. Why the fuck should I be the one being held accountable? So if you still feel that kind of rage boil up in you when I say that, when I say take accountability for where you were the victim, if it pisses you off, then that's something you need to work through the healing process of that. Because when you can find yourself in a place of being accountable to the areas where you were the victim, and it doesn't piss you off and it empowers you, right? That's when you know you're on the other side of it. Because when you can be accountable, then the control is back in your hands. You're not giving your power away. You're taking your power back. Right? If you are accountable for the things that happen in your life, that means that you chose it. They didn't choose that for you. You chose it. So you have to remember, we choose these experiences for a reason. And I understand some things are extremely severe, right? Child abuse. Not something we necessarily want to think about or talk about. And you might be thinking, well, I sure as shit did not choose to get abused as a child. However, you did. Before you incarnated, you chose that probably to clear some karma from a past life. But we choose to have these experiences. We have a balance between being the perpetrator and being the victim in a lot of our past lives and future lives and just incarnations in general for the sake of experience and to know what it feels like to be on both ends of the duality, right? It's dualistic. We can't always be the victim, right? So if you can look at your traumas and you can look at the places where you were a victim and you can say, what did this teach me? What did I learn? And it's not just sarcastic stuff like, oh, people are assholes or don't trust people. I'm talking true, like enlightened thoughts and beliefs and like, what did this teach me? What lessons did I learn from this experience, right? How did this shape me? Things like that. And when you can say, okay, it's okay that happened to me. It's okay that I did play the role of victim, but I'm not a victim now, right? Are you a victim now? No. So if we can be accountable for the things that happen in our lives, instead of blaming everybody else. Again, I'm not downplaying severe trauma by any means, but if there's a takeaway, find the takeaway and move past it, move out of the victimhood and come out on top, right? You didn't survive this thing that you were a victim of to stay in victimhood and miserable for the rest of your life. When you are just staying miserable for the rest of your life because of something that happened to you, you're giving your power away to your trauma, right? To be standing in our power means we're accountable and we are trusting ourselves and we're not letting other things dictate, other people, other situations, traumas, past experiences dictate how we act and how we move forward in our day-to-day life. When we're allowing those things to dictate our actions, our thoughts, we're giving our power away to it. So the more we're identifying as a victim, the more we are giving our power away to the situation and the perpetrator. And so we have to heal past the victimhood. We have to get past woe is me. Sure, you can have a bad day and you can have a little pity party for yourself, but you can't stay there, right? So we have to move out of victimhood. And wherever you find yourself identifying as a victim is a major, major, major red flag of an area where we need to do some healing and so that we can take our power back, right? Okay, so we recognize the areas we're giving our power away. We do our healing. We take our power back, and then we embody it, right? We embody the confidence, right? And sometimes, when you do the healing and now you're trying to really, you've taken your power back and now it's like, how is this supposed to feel? Like, what do I do with it? Like, it feels foreign if you've been giving your power away your whole life. And so some kind of tips or maybe hacks that you can use that I've used, one can be channeling an archetype, right? Say you have sexual trauma that affected your confidence, your self-esteem, your body image. You feel, uncomfortable in sexual situations and you just want to feel confident. You just want to feel sexy, right? You're working through it. You're starting to feel better about the way you look and you just want to embody that confidence, right? And, in a sexual area, right? You want to give your partner the confident version of you, right? You can channel the siren energy, the siren archetype, right? That's that empowered, sexual, sensual femininity, right? Obviously, this is more if you're a female. So find the different archetypes that are the epitome of what you want to embody and choose to channel those things, right? Especially, around the scenarios when you're usually triggered into feeling not confident or, reverting back to old ways or old thoughts. If you are going into a situation, so say maybe you give your power away to your mother and you've worked on it a lot and you've done the inner child work and you've pulled cords and you've done a lot of the work. Okay, so you're going to hang out with your mom. Be proactive about it, right? Be firm with your boundaries, right? Do some work on your solar plexus before you even go, right? It's like give your solar plexus a little tune up and almost give yourself a little pep talk and say, no, I am going to be firm with my boundaries, get your solar plexus in a good way so that you're feeling it and you can embody the confidence at the peak of its energy, right? Okay, another thing you can do is you can connect with your higher self in a way to intentionally almost put your ego to the side and connect with your higher self to see yourself from this objective lens. It is so much easier to see yourself in the way other people see you when you are looking almost objectively from this kind of higher perspective, almost down on yourself. and you're like, oh my God, like she is beautiful. Why would she ever say that or think that, right? It's kind of like, when people say, don't say something to yourself that you wouldn't say to your best friend, right? You wouldn't tell your best friend like she's too ugly to wear that outfit. You know what I mean? So it's like similar to that, but it's connecting with your higher self, saying, okay, I'm going to leave my ego behind. I'm choosing to connect with my higher self, almost, float up above and just kind of look down on yourself in the situation. And you might start to see yourself from a different perspective that allows you to feel more confident and to embody your personal power. Again, another thing, just regular energetic maintenance, checking to see if you have cords that need to be pulled, checking your chakra, all of your chakras, not just your solar plexus, because a lot of things go hand in hand, right? If you have a trauma and a certain, maybe sexual trauma, that's in your sacral. If you have childhood trauma, that's also in your root chakra. So there's a lot of overlap. So it's not necessarily just that one chakra, but do your energetic hygiene, right? Go listen to the whole episode on energetic hygiene and create your own routine to keep everything in a good place. Another thing you can do is you can connect with other versions of yourself. So it could be past versions, it could be future versions. Make the intention of, good, versions of yourself where you were standing in your power, where you were confident, where you were doing your thing. And when you start to see, wow, like I did that. I was this badass healer in this past life, or, I was this amazingly loving being who just shared so much love and compassion with the world. And when you start to see and feel the energy of other versions of you who very much stood in your power, and then embody that, right? The easiest thing to embody are other aspects of you. In fact, some of them are begging for you to embody them. So connect with, make that intention. And this can be through meditation. Before you're falling asleep at night, say, hey, I want to connect with the most empowered version of myself. I want to connect and I want to embody it. And I want to feel what it feels like and see what it looks like and hear what it sounds like, all of it. It can also, when you're starting to wake up in the morning, that, if you struggle with meditation and connecting to spirit, when you're first waking up in the morning can be a really good time because you're still kind of in that in-between space. So, there's limitless ways that we can choose to connect, whether it's through meditation or even writing. You could write a letter to your, empowered self and then do some automatic writing back to yourself, right? There's so many different things we can do to kind of channel and embody these empowered versions of ourselves. Okay. So at the end of the day, one of our biggest struggles just as a human species is taking our power back and standing in our power. But when we do that, again, we can trust in ourselves and the universe. We can surrender, which allows us to manifest. We believe in ourselves and we can create whatever we want. And at the end of the day, we're happy. We feel good. We feel fulfilled because we're operating from a healthy, loving, empowered place and not from victimhood, not from our trauma, and not from other people's needs above our own. All right. So I hope that this was good and helpful to somebody out there, and I'll see you next time.